Will this be a Black Friday sale for the stocks, Bitcoin, crypto markets this year, or a Black Friday fail? Let's jump in and see what is going on. Markets are kind of flat midday today, the day before Thanksgiving in the United States. It's Thanksgiving Eve. Markets are pretty much flat across the board. NASDAQ up just a little bit, third of a percent. S&P up 0.12. Dow bouncing back and forth between green and red as the markets await the Fed minutes, which we pretty much know what they say. Powell came out, said what he said. All the Fed speakers have been out the last couple of weeks. So I don't think there's going to be any surprises there. Earnings were definitely looking good, which is giving the Fed more ammunition. Job market is still exhibiting strong signs, even with all the tech layoffs and things like that. Then the big question is there going to be a recession? How deep is it going to go? How long is it going to last? And again, we're not going to know any of those answers till we get into next year, because even with the layoffs that are happening, a lot of people have savings. They still have credit available. There's severance packages, and it can take several months for any kind of those effects to kick in from job losses and things of that nature. So this is Bitcoin right here on the daily. But first, let's take a look at the Dow. Reaching out, rejecting right here at the previous August high, almost to the penny. Not quite able to break through. If this breaks through and continues, obviously that's a good sign, but rejecting right now. NASDAQ kind of unwinding. S&P. Let's take a look at what the daily averages are where this is happening. So typically lately the Dow has kind of held or found resistance at the 200-day moving average, found it as support this time, moved on. So the question is, will it come back, find support again, or is that the end of it for a little while and come back in and retest these October lows? NASDAQ not quite as big of a rebound, not able to get above the 100 this time, which it found rejection back here in March, broke out above it here in August, but rejected again in September. Right now finding rejection just like this area right here. So will that continue down as it moves up to try that 100-day again? S&P found support on the 100-day, but heading for the 200, which has been major resistance for the S&P. Basically, the last time hit it to the penny on the 16th of August. And then the big thing that we're watching, obviously, is the VIX. As the VIX gets down, found support at 20. Whenever the VIX gets low, look out below. Last time it was at 19 to 20 was in that August timeframe. Before that, the last time was in the April timeframe, and we just looked at what that was. This was August right here, and this is April right in this area. So your two biggest declines were back when the VIX was at that level. The dollar is continuing its retreat. Had a little bounce, found rejection, and let's take a look at that. Right on that 200-day moving average for support. The Dixie, same kind of thing going on with the Dixie. Or the 10-year, I'm sorry, the 10 years below the 50-day moving average, but had a little bounce, turned around and lost that move. So the question is it going to look like this area here where there was a double top, found support, and then moved back on? Almost like a shoulder, head, shoulder situation going on. The dollar, same thing, kind of had a little bit of a halt right in this area before it continued on. This was a big drop in the dollar, which obviously was risk on after the Fed pivot narrative and the Fed pivot narrative and earnings narrative, which was just like we saw back here, right? June, July, Fed pivot narrative, earnings came in strong, fueled the rally. Then we lost all that. Same thing here, Fed pivot narrative, earnings come in strong. Question is, will the markets lose the rally? Let's take a look at Bitcoin here. And, a lot of people are saying stocks are on sale, crypto's on sale. A lot of people looking for a bottom here once again, just like we have been looking for a bottom in this area. And what we keep finding is just level after level after level keeps getting broken on Bitcoin and crypto, especially with all the things with FTX and all the other stuff going on. Something I like to look at is I like to invert this scale just to kind of get a little different perspective. And if you look at the inverted scale, you have a nice reversal pattern there, double bottom reversal, looking for more continuation until you hit this level here for resistance, which would be, if you go back, support. So in terms of just what looks likely and probable would be to continue down and find support in this area of about that 12,000 price point. A lot of people calling for 10,000 and below. A lot of people calling for 14,000. That's just your next level once this level breaks. But ultimately, your biggest level of support's in that 11 to 12,000 range. And really, what could happen is this could just continue to bounce along sideways here and just kind of torture everybody, and then take another leg down, bounce along in that 12 to 14,000, torture everybody, and then just kind of wait the market macroeconomic environment out, see what inflation looks like in December, the report in December, what the Fed does in December with 50 or 75. That conversation is ongoing. Talks of Fed pivot, reversals, things like that. So those are the types of things that we just have to watch and wait and see. Nobody knows exactly what's going to happen. The question is, what is, probable within the realms of probability, and what is likely to happen based on where we're at with the liquidity cycle, Fed tightening, QT, things like that. Nothing's changed. The Fed's not pivoting. They're not slowing down. They're not stopping. They might slow the pace of the rate hikes, but they're not stopping anytime soon. In fact, some of the Fed members said they're going to continue to raise rates higher. Something interesting to look at is what happened last year, Thanksgiving, right? So last year on Bitcoin Thanksgiving, the peak, as we know, was in November. And here is Thanksgiving was on the 25th last year. So the day before Thanksgiving was a little down day. Thanksgiving was an up day, if you remember. I remember watching, had a nice little rebound. Everybody in my family was all excited. And I told them, top is in, it's time to get out. And they're like, well, the market's rallying. And then Friday, bam, had a big drop. And let's look at that real quick. So what was that drop? A couple of things to look at here on Bitcoin. The drop was 9% on Friday. So that was a Black Friday fail, 9%. So what happens if Bitcoin drops 9% from here? And we don't know where here is going to be at the end of the day, where the close is going to be. Let's just say it closes right here. 9% from there takes you down to 14.9. So you break the 15,000 level, start getting down in a 14.9 range, somewhere around there. So that's interesting to look at. Let's take a look at the stock markets last year. Let's look at the Dow. Where was November of, let's see, 2021, I'm sorry, November 2021. There we go. Right here, markets are closed on Friday in the United States. You had the 24th was an up day, and there was the half a day Friday. Markets were down all across the board as well. So the markets had a down day, as well as crypto and Bitcoin. So it was a Black Friday fail last year. Are we going to see a repeat this year? And let's go back to 2018. The other thing that I've been tracking on Bitcoin, a couple other things, obviously. Number one is the moving averages, below all major moving averages. This is kind of leveling out here, kind of like we saw back in 2018, where the 50 and the 100 day kind of leveled out and then fell off the cliff for the last time. And where was that in 2018? I believe this area here, I think it was the 22nd and 23rd were Thanksgiving. So Friday and Saturday. So it was right in this area here before the final collapse, final, drawdown in Bitcoin. So let's take it from this area here. And that was a 26% drop before the final bottom was put in right after that Thanksgiving November timeframe. Today's the 23rd, which if you go to 23rd back here, that's right here. So that's Friday the 23rd, the day after Thanksgiving in 2018. So this is kind of where that would be. And again, what was that drop back then? It was a 25% drop, basically. So we just looked at what would 9% look like. What would 25% look like? Let's get rid of these moving averages and go over here. And what would a 25% drop look like on Bitcoin right now? And let's just say it's in this area, 25% down, puts Bitcoin at 12,000 price point. So just like we were talking about a second ago. So a couple of things pointing at that level. Is that what's going to happen? There is no indication, pi cycle top indicator nailing the two tops, recent history, but the pi cycle bottom, that's what's interesting. So here's something that's interesting. So the pi cycle bottom, pi cycle top nailed the last two tops, but the pi cycle bottom nailed the 2018 bottom, but it called the bottom on this cycle on July the 12th. We've already violated that low. So this has been invalidated right now from a bottom. So that's interesting on the pi cycle indicators. So take that for what it is. Don't know if that means anything or not. Just interesting to kind of look at that. The other thing is the Bitcoin hash ribbon indicator. Let's take a look at that. Is getting closer to capitulation with several of the miners. Let's look at the hash ribbon right here. Some of the miners are starting to shut rigs down, and you can see this kind of coming together again. Your last buy signal, Bitcoin buy signal on the daily was in August. If you look at the weekly, haven't had one yet, as this continues to roll over right now and start moving towards more of a capitulation. So let's take a look at that real quick. And let's go back to the daily. So when price rolled over the last time into capitulation from here, how far did price drop from that point to the last capitulation before the buy signal? Price dropped not much there. Let's go back to 2018, where it happened over here, where the buy signal came in and the markets capitulated ahead of that. That was a nice little drop in this area of probably about, I think it was about 15, 20%. Yeah, 15% there. So it'll be interesting to see if this turns into another capitulation signal after the buy signal is flashed, kind of like we saw right here. Buy signal flash, market ran on, went into capitulation. Buy signal flashed in 2018, kind of like where we are right now. Flashed, market went on, didn't get your capitulation signal till right in this area. And then, of course, the 2020 timeframe. So interesting statistics to look at. But again, this has already been invalidated because a low has been put in lower than when that signal flashed, which usually the prior low is the low for the cycle. So we know that this definitely wasn't the bottom. Question is, how far will this go? This whole area here lasted, see how long this lasted. Basically, before the drop, 141 days. So we looked at something else the other day, back in that 2018 timeframe, where from this point here to this point here, from the last, where it began until rebound was about 139 days. So if we look at where this begins to where it ends, let's go over 139 days. Let's see where that puts us, like we've been talking about. That's in that March. That's in that March time frame, probably the end of March to 139 days. Let's see where that puts it. Right there's 137. Yep, right at the end of March. So we looked at that the other day. So the question is, will this continue sideways, ranging in this range right here of that 15 now low wick of 4 to the wick high recently of 17? Will it continue to do that until the end of March, which is the end of Q1, which is what I'm looking at in terms of a lot of other indicators from an economic standpoint, where we get into Q1, we know what the layoffs look like, the impact of that, people's credit runs out, their savings starts running down. Where is inflation at that point? The biggest thing is the job market is remaining strong and steady. The consumer is still spending, remaining strong and steady. The reports are that airline tickets are, continuing to remain strong. People are still spending money, things of that nature. So that's the battle against inflation is a lot tougher than everybody projected previously. So we'll just have to wait and see how this shakes out and get through the end of the year. And the question is, are we going to get that Santa Claus rally this year, like we've seen in previous years past? And we'll start digging into that after we get through the end of this month. So if you're in the United States celebrating Thanksgiving, I want to wish you and your family a happy Thanksgiving. Or if you're celebrating abroad, markets will be closed tomorrow on Thanksgiving, open for a half a day Friday. And we will be on the lookout for a Black Friday sale or a Black Friday fail. So these are the things I'm looking at. I'll see you on the next video.